Hello and welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about longevity and the lessons I learned from the life and loss of my grandparents. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where each week I will be discussing all things fasting and how it can become the most valuable tool in your personal toolkit, so that you can live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Vicki Sharon, and thank you for joining me. When I first heard longevity mentioned, it was in reference specifically to the blue zones parts of the world and these citizens that live in these areas, their ability to really achieve long, healthy lives with just existing and living the way that had been deeply ingrained in them since birth. This is the way these cultures in these specific areas live, and they just, by natural consequence, they live these long, healthy, meaningful lives. But I think the beautifully ironic part of the way that they just live their lives from day to day, just in a naturally healthy sort of way that just comes instinctually and habitually to them. The obsession and focus of making sure they do healthy practices, making sure they, count their steps, making sure they measure that doesn't happen in these parts of the world. The way of life just is so instinctually known to just eat certain ways, drink certain things, behave, be as active certain ways. It's just embedded into who they are. And I think we can learn a lot from these areas of the world. And I say we, meaning the other areas of the world that struggle with all the health conditions that are currently prevalent in our society, with cancers, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, obesity in general. Everything that's out there has ties to our lifestyle and the way that we live, the way that we eat, the way that we think about our stressors, the way that we treat ourselves. A lot of those little pieces do add up to contribute to either a long or short life. So I mentioned my grandparents, and I do want to integrate lessons I learned from them into this episode as well. My grandparents, or as I call them, my Nana and Papa, had what I personally feel their lives cut shorter than what it really should have been. I moved in with my grandparents in Central Florida in 2007, and from the time of moving in with them until I moved out with my now late husband, I noticed a very concerning and noticeable decline in health in the both of them. It was an overly sedentary lifestyle, constantly eating lots of heavily processed foods. And mind you, at that time, I was also consuming and partaking in those food choices as well. So I was not just saying that they were consuming it and not me. Like, I was totally in it too. I was, sneaking food still in the middle of the night at that point, and just really allowing to really indulge whenever, however I wanted. And I know both of them had periods of doing the same thing as well. Their daughter and my mother passed away in 2000. And after her death, they lived every day as if it were just the day that she had died. Both of them had no problem commiserating and living in fresh, raw grief every single day. Some days they hid it better than others, but I could see it. And it was even worse when I moved in. And the desire for both of them to want to commiserate with each other and with me, and to sit and just be with their emotions, I feel it was in a very unhealthy sort of way. And from what I've learned from my time in the blue zones, one of the best bits of wisdom I learned from this wonderful lady named Thea. And she had shared that the wisdom of the island was that when people pass away, we can't let ourselves go. We have to keep ourselves together and focus-minded in knowing that we want to live so that we can remember the ones that we've lost. And learning that from my time in Greece, I really wish I could have instilled more for my grandparents when they were here, to know that my mom certainly would not want them to live their lives the way they did. Sorry for the cry voice a little bit. She would not be happy to see them letting themselves go and just living in this constant victim mentality, hopelessness, depression, of course, but I mean, there was a bit of things that I saw as her daughter and the way that my relationship dynamic was with my mom. I know that this is not a way that she would have wanted to be remembered. And that really hurt a lot of times to see them live their lives the way that they did. And as a granddaughter, I really shouldn't have to do or experience the health declines that they both had that ended up leading to both of their deaths. And as you can tell, it's really still painful for me to talk about at times, but I feel like that's the best way, that exposure therapy, right? That's the best way, at least for me, is to face the hard parts of these thoughts and feelings, to kind of work through them. But my grandfather's death, when he got sick in August of 2017, I already started to see the signs that mentally letting go and breakdown, I guess you could kind of call it, from my grandmother as she would go to and from visiting him in the hospital and then later on going to visit him in hospice. After my grandfather passed away, similarly as I experienced as a fresh new widow, of course you have lots of people at your side, but then that does start to fade away. And my grandmother's mindset after losing my grandfather was absolutely not the same as the mindset that I had going into the death of my late husband. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because I wished so much better for her and for my grandfather too. I wished so much better for them. I do remember there were many times that I did try to help them regain their health, to be more physically active, as they were very, very sedentary. They both had reclining chairs that each of them had positioned in the living room where they were the majority of the time, anytime they were watching television. And it was really hard to see that overly sedentary habits build and lead to contribute towards the health conditions that they both had. They both had issues with their legs, issues with pain and joints, inflammation, obviously the poor eating habits, like I already mentioned, which was just a circle of cycling behavior that caused everything to repeat. They would feel bad. They would go and buy foods that they wanted to eat and make themselves feel good about. Which reminds me of an episode that my grandmother had with me when I brought her to a rehabilitation appointment at a doctor's office when she was living in an assisted living facility and supposedly getting better and improving her health. While we were waiting for the medical transit van to come and pick her up and bring her back to where she was staying, she asked me, since I drove by car, if I could go by McDonald's and buy her a strawberry shake. And I personally refused because she had gotten a bad news report from the doctor about what she had been doing so far in the facility and how she was refusing to do physical therapy and refusing to change her eating habits and to stop the snacking that she was continuing to do still while she was there. I refused to go and get her a strawberry shake, and I offered a healthier option for her to get instead. And she did not like that option. She kind of threw a grown-up little temper tantrum at me. And I remember maybe I could have been a little bit, well, let's just say I was raw in my emotions, and I felt like my mom would have wanted to say what I had to say to her. And while it was kind of a harsh, tough love kind of explanation, I did explain to her that I was upset with the way that she was letting herself go after that, the way that she was letting herself go after Papa's passing, and how my mom, her daughter, would definitely not have wanted that. So I feel like even though I had not yet learned that lesson about staying well to remember the ones that we've lost, the essence of that message was still deeply embedded in me before even finding out about it. So it was really hard to come to terms with the fact that my grandmother, at this point of her grief and stage of her life, she was just ready and willing to give up and throw in the towel despite despite me asking her, begging her, talking to her to try to encourage her to realize that living her life the best way that she could would be honoring and making, her husband and daughter, who are both passed on, would be making them proud. And not everybody has that realization in those moments of raw grief. And there's so much information and data out there about the sicknesses and physical illnesses that come to the surface when we deal, or honestly, when we don't properly deal with our grief and our feelings. All that stress and all that stuff stays and manifests in a physical form that will absolutely affect your quality of life. So it was really hard to deal with the fact that my grandparents, when they were both alive, to deal with the passing of my mom, their daughter, was to just commiserate with people. There was no dealing and processing of the emotions and feelings that they were going through to get through them. They just let these feelings of sadness and grief stay in such a negative light and affect their lives so drastically that it just compounded over time and led to their death. Really, guys, like it led to their death is really the easiest way to describe it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not achieving longevity or really bringing attention to wanting to live a long, healthy, meaningful life, as I very passionately feel and have felt for a very long time, even before finding fasting. So while there were negative components of my grandparents' life and time here on earth with me, there are also many positive lessons that I learned from them about health and longevity as well. I remember many times growing up wanting to stay and spend as much time as possible at my grandparents' house because of how much I enjoyed spending time with them at their house growing up when I was a child, and how often I wanted to have sleepovers at Nana and Papa's house, and just begging my mom, can I just stay over? Can I just stay over? Just because I liked waking up in the morning and spending time with my Nana, going on adventures with her. And it wasn't always about getting something. It was the time spent with her, hearing her tell stories, sing goofy, silly songs, and just be that grandmother around. And I liked and appreciated that a lot. And I tried to do that as much as I could growing up. There were so many lessons and little bits of wisdom that I remember still so vividly and fondly from both my grandparents, that I still carry with me to this day. So I feel like as much as the negative aspects of the ends of their lives hurt to think about and remember and talk about, I definitely appreciate the positive aspects way more, and I let the positives carry me further into the future without holding a grudge onto the negative parts. So tying this all together for you, listener here, if you think about longevity and the goals that you want to achieve and see it for yourself, for your health, for your future, your family's future, what you see and know from your day-to-day lives, your stressors, the people that surround you, the way you treat your body, what's important to you, all these little things, all these little nuances in the long run, they do add up and they do matter. And as we know, and we've seen, if not already experienced in your life and circumstance, these can add up positively or negatively, but it's all up to our mindset and decision that we make for ourselves and what we want to go and achieve for ourselves, for our future. Because like I've also said previously, it's important to remember that if you want your bodies to last, you got to take care of them. Obviously, we know this. I like to say your body is a multi-million-dollar smart house that your soul resides in. And if you want it to last, you've got to take care of it. And it means more than just on the weight loss, getting healthy, eating right sort of mentality as well. It encompasses everything about what makes it a good life to lead. Do you have things that you're passionate about that you do? Do you have people that you connect with? Do you feel good about the food that you're eating? Are you active throughout your day to where you can maintain your physical stamina and strength on a regular day-to-day activities? So as far as I'm concerned, your health is your wealth. And if you don't have your health, then you're definitely looking at a very close point at the end of your life. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for you. So know if you feel stuck that you don't have to feel stuck. You don't have to stay there. You can make a beautiful life for yourself, no matter where you are in your health and wellness point in life, in your journey. If you've tried other methods before, if you got frustrated in the past, if you're alive, there's still time. That's it. If you're alive, there's time, and you can make those steps in the right direction to achieve a longer life and achieve what longevity looks like for you. Because I truly believe that you can do this. I believe in you, even if you don't. I'm going to give you a big virtual hug right now. I hope you have a great rest of the day wherever you are. And if you are in need of supportive coaching on your fasting journey, I'm here. I care, and I can help. TheFastingFocusLifestyle.com has my calendar and more. And as always, I truly know you can do this. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. The Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2023. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.